Today's Steelers Talk video is sponsored by RexMD. Go to rexmd.com/chat for up to 95% off generic Viagra or Cialis today, plus get a free gift. And welcome into Steelers Talk today. We got a jam-packed show. There's been a ton of news here on Monday. We're going to get to all of it here in just a second. First, we're going to be talking about who Mike Tomlin has named as the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into Bengals week here in week 16. Also, there's a new rumor going around that the Steelers are done with George Pickens and that he will be traded this offseason. I'll give my reaction to that, as well as what I think the Steelers can get in a trade for GP. And then also make sure you stick around where I'm going to be giving you guys the updated Steelers playoff path after this 3-game skid against the Cardinals, Patriots, and Colts, respectively. You got 3 games left on your schedule. Going to let you know what they need to do to make the postseason. But before we get into all of the news topics that we're going to be discussing today, get in the comments section and get our show started off today by answering this question. What are the odds that the Pittsburgh Steelers make the playoffs this season? Put it on a scale of 0 to 100. 0 meaning no chance. 100% means they're definitely making it. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section to get us started. And let's start with the big news of the day. And it was expected here, especially after the way Mike Tomlin was talking after his post-game press conference on Saturday. But it's officially official. If it's going to be a choice between Mason Rudolph or Mitch Trubisky, it will be Mason Rudolph getting the start for the black and gold here in Week 16 versus the Cincinnati Bengals. This comes after backup quarterback Mitchell Trubisky kind of shitting the bed. I mean, I'm not going to lie here, man. This guy's not played good football over the last 2 weeks as the Steelers starter. Of course, the Steelers have lost both games. The offense wasn't really scoring points. And overall, I don't even think these numbers aren't great here, but I don't even think these numbers do justice to just how bad Mitch Trubisky has played over the last 2 weeks. Every single game that Trubisky has played in, the Steelers have lost, all right? So I don't think that's a coincidence. Trubisky's been a complete train wreck this year, and because of that, I think this is the right move for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If Kenny Pickett is not able to go this week, and it doesn't really look like he's going to be able to, I think that this team needs a spark because we all know they need to win this week against the Cincinnati Bengals and Jake Browning. We're going to get into Jamar Chase's injury update here in just a second. He may not be on the field. No doubt about it. The black and gold need to win this weekend. I think Mason Rudolph provides a spark here. I think these guys are going to be rejuvenated with Mason Rudolph out there instead of Mitchell Trubisky, and I think he gives the Steelers the best chance to win. And listen, I'm not saying that Mason Rudolph is going to come in here and light things up or that he's even a good option for the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point. I mean, it's actually probably likely that Rudolph comes in and stinks it up just like Trubisky did, all right? So I'm not saying that Rudolph is necessarily a good option for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. I just think it's the right call because I think he's the best bad option that the Steelers have at their disposal right now. I don't trust Trace McSorley to come in. I know those some Penn State fans might want to see him play in the Pittsburgh Steelers uniform. Don't trust him at all at this point, and then I don't trust Mitchell Trubisky either. Though I can't say I necessarily trust Rudolph either, but I trust him more than those other 2 options. So I think Mike Tomlin is making the right call here. And then also, it's going to be December 23rd. So you got a quarterback named Rudolph coming into play for the Steelers here to try and save Christmas here for the Yinzers. You just can't script it any better. And I actually think Rudolph gives them a pretty decent shot to win on Saturday afternoon. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Who's the better quarterback for the Steelers right now? Would it be Mitch Trubisky, type MT, or do you agree with Mike Tomlin here with his decision to go with Mason Rudolph, type MT for Trubisky, or MR for Rudolph? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So coming up here, we're going to be talking about our sponsor. While I'm talking about RexMD today, go ahead, find that pinned comment. It's right at the top of the comment section, and answer today's pinned question. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at RexMD. And fellas, do you sometimes lack confidence in the bedroom? Do you wish you could have a more fulfilling sex life? Well, you're not alone in that, and that's why we're excited to tell you about RexMD, the online source for men's wellness. RexMD offers an easy and discreet way to get the medication you need for ED without having to visit a doctor's office. With just a few clicks, you can have your medication delivered straight to your door at a fraction of the cost of a traditional pharmacy. RexMD's team of licensed physicians will work with you to find the right treatment plan, and their medication is made right here in the United States of America so you can trust its quality. Plus, their customer support team is available 24/7 to answer any questions or concerns you may have. So, if you're ready to take control of your sex life and say goodbye to ED, head on over to rexmd.com/chat and start your consultation today. Take advantage of their best deal that they've ever offered and get up to 95% off RexMD plus a free gift with our exclusive link, rexmd.com/chat. Go to rexmd.com/chat for this limited time deal. Starter packs of generic Viagra or Cialis are now available for our listeners to get started. That's rexmd.com/chat for up to 95% off plus a free gift today. So now there's an explosive new report out there in the ether right now that the Pittsburgh Steelers are reportedly ready to move on from second-year wide receiver George Pickens this offseason and will be looking to trade him during this 2024 offseason. And if this is true, if this report ends up being true, this would be a huge story here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this comes from NFL notifications. All right, now I do want to say before we get into this report, take it with a grain of salt. This account here on X is definitely not necessarily the most credible out there. But he says a source that reached out to them and that says that the Steelers front office is ready to move on from wide receiver George Pickens. They don't believe his antics/lack of effort embodies the quote-unquote Steeler way, and a trade seems likely in the offseason if a team is willing to take on the risk. And this definitely kind of goes in line with some of the things that head coach Mike Tomlin has been saying about George Pickens over the last couple of weeks, calling his antics a problem. This is what he had to say last week during his weekly press conference about GP. It's a problem because it's not solution-oriented. We're all frustrated, but we got to manage our frustrations in a professional, mature way. And when it's not done that way, it's not necessarily pushing us towards solutions. So obviously Tomlin is at least a little bit frustrated with the way that George Pickens is acting on the field. His body language, of course, not blocking even when a run is coming his way. This is somebody that used to take pride in his run blocking, completely deleting corners from the play, and now it just doesn't seem like George has that want to anymore when it comes to this Pittsburgh Steelers team. I can't say I wouldn't be frustrated too if I was in George Pickens' shoes. I mean, this guy knows that he is a top 10 talent at the wide receiver position in this league right now, and they're still not getting him the football. So I'm not sure how reliable a source this is. So definitely take this with a grain of salt, but it definitely wouldn't shock me if this offseason, if they feel like George is more of a me guy and they want more we guys here in Pittsburgh, it wouldn't shock me if they were willing to deal him for a high draft pick this offseason. But now I think there's really two big questions if we're going to be discussing a potential George Pickens trade. Number one, what could they net for him in a trade? What are teams going to be willing up to give him up for? And then also, what would the Steelers accept in a trade? So you're going to have to find a happy medium between these two, and it's definitely going to be a tough evaluation because George Pickens is super young, yet he's also one of the most talented receivers in the league. And his contract situation is fantastic as well on a rookie contract, right? Not even a first-round rookie contract. So getting a receiver this talented for that low of a cap hit is definitely going to be attractive to some of these teams, especially teams like Kansas City, that need a wide receiver. George Pickens would probably be their number one guy with Patrick Mahomes there next year. But would they be willing to give up a first-round pick? I'm just not sure about that. I think that his talent warrants a first-round pick in exchange for him, but because of his antics, because of everything that he's done in terms of the intangibles of the football game this year, I'm just not sure if teams are going to be willing to give up a first-round draft pick for him. And I really do think the likely value that the Steelers could get for him is a day 2 pick. Round 2 probably at the highest, but potentially even a round 3 pick is what teams are going to be offering for George Pickens because he's a risky guy to take on. Let's just call it what it is. People don't want to bring on selfish players into their locker room because they can be locker room cancers. So you're not going to want to give up potentially a first or second round pick for a guy that you think is going to be a locker room cancer. So it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to see and kind of project what the Steelers can get for him. But I can tell you this right now. I think that Pittsburgh would probably only get rid of him for a second-round pick. I think if teams say, we'll give you a third-round pick for him, I think they say that we pass, right? You took this guy in the second round. 2 years ago in the draft. You're not going to trade him for something that's less of a value than the pick that you spent on him. So I really do think second-round pick is going to be the lowest that they take in exchange for George Pickens. And because of that, I think that the likelihood of him actually getting traded this offseason probably goes down because of that fact. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. If you're GM Omar Khan and someone offers you a second-round draft pick in exchange for George Pickens, are you taking that? Type T if you're trading George for a second, or type K if you want to keep 14 here in the Steel City. Now let's shift to the updated Steelers playoff path here, where it's definitely after this 3-game skid, losing to the Cardinals, losing to the Patriots, and losing to the Indianapolis Colts. Now the Steelers are sitting at 7-7, and for the first time in a while, they're sitting outside the AFC playoff picture right now. Of course, in that wild card race, the Browns just keep winning despite all their injuries. They're currently sitting at 9-5, and then there's a collection of 4 teams sitting at 8-6: the Bengals, the Colts, the Texans, and the Bills, respectively. And then right now, the Steelers are tied with the Denver Broncos at 7-7. So it's definitely going to be an uphill battle for the Pittsburgh Steelers to make the postseason, and that's bared out by the New York Times playoff projections here that have the Steelers at just a 3% shot to make the playoffs. That's extremely low. If you would have won this weekend against the Colts, it would have been pretty much a 50-50 shot. Now, because of the loss, because all these wild card teams ended up winning their respective football games, the Steelers' playoff odds went down dramatically here, down to just 3%. So really, when it comes to the playoff path for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, I think it's pretty simple. You got to win the rest of the 3 games left on your schedule. Otherwise, you pretty much have no shot of making the postseason here in 2023. Now, you can win 2 of these games, and Mike Tomlin could save his streak of winning seasons, right, or at least non-losing seasons. He could get to 9-8 with 2 of these wins, but I think if you're going to make the playoffs in the AFC this year, which is extremely loaded with a lot of good teams, I think you got to get to at least 10-7. Right now, you're sitting with just 7 wins, so you got to beat the Bengals, the Seahawks, and the Ravens all in a row here to finish off the season to even have a shot. And even if you run the table here, even if you win the last 3 weeks of the year here, you're not guaranteed anything right now, okay? So your playoff odds, according to the New York Times, if you win out, is just a 3/4 chance, pretty much, 76%. And then these chances go down by pretty much 65% here. It goes down to just 10% if you win 2 out of the last 3. So really, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you want a good chance to make the playoffs, you got to win all 3. But if you win 2 out of 3, Mike Tomlin saves his non-losing season streak for the 17th straight season. And then also you get a 10% shot to make the playoffs as well. And then you look at the remaining schedule again. I think that Cincinnati is definitely a game that's winnable. They might not have Jamar Chase. They have Jake Browning as their quarterback. The Seattle Seahawks stink. And then also the Ravens have struggled against the Steelers, particularly offensively, with Lamar Jackson as their quarterback. So I think all these games are winnable for the black and gold, and something tells me they're going to get to 9-8, but probably no playoffs here in 2023. But let me know down there in the comments section. I want to see your predictions down there in the comments. Will the Steelers make the playoffs here in 2023? Give me an official prediction. Yes or no? Will the black and gold be in the postseason this year? So before I go, I do have some final news items. Again, like I said, this is a jam-packed show. We got a lot of news to cover on today's show. So let's start with some injury updates for your Pittsburgh Steelers, starting with the safety, Minkah Fitzpatrick, already deemed out this week in this must-win matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. He suffered a knee injury, did not return against the Indianapolis Colts. He will be out yet again this week with that knee injury. And then maybe on the more positive side here, Mike Tomlin said Kenny Pickett has had a really good week of rehab over the last week or so, and he's not ruling him out to play here in Week 16. Now, I think for sure he'll be back for Week 17 against the Seattle Seahawks, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see how well Pickett progresses here as the week goes on, and who knows, maybe he can even suit up in this must-win matchup here in Week 16. All right, so other injuries to kind of monitor for the Steelers as the week goes on. Cam Hayward is currently in concussion protocol. He's going to be questionable to go. Really want him in there. He's an elite run stuffer. Elijah Riley, the defensive back who's been out the last couple of games with an ankle injury, he's questionable to return. He could actually be huge. He could actually maybe even replace Minkah Fitzpatrick there if need be. Trenton Thompson, who left Saturday's game with a stinger, he's also questionable. And then Keanu Neal, the strong safety that's been on IR for the last 4 weeks, could return this week, but Mike Tomlin says it's going to take at least another week. He's going to be out on IR with those ribs injuries. And then when it comes to injuries, another big one on the other sideline this week is going to be Jamar Chase, who's currently dealing with a shoulder injury, suffered that shoulder injury towards the end of that Vikings game on last Saturday, and he's going to be questionable to go. He's considered day-to-day here in Week 16, and if he's not out there for Jake Browning, it's going to be tough, I think, for Cincinnati to move this football because you can put Joey Porter Jr. one-on-one with T. Higgins, and then Jake Browning's going to pretty much have to find other answers to get the ball moving through the air. And the Steelers did a great job defensively against Joe Mixon when they played them earlier this year. And then the final thing, the final news story that's kind of dominating Steelers Twitter and the Steelers news cycle right now is that the NFL has officially suspended Damontae Kazee for the rest of the 2023 season for that hit against Michael Pittman Jr. led to his ejection from the football game last Saturday. And you know what? I thought the hit was warranted of an ejection, maybe a 1 or maybe even 2 game suspension. But for the rest of the season without pay, I think is a little bit too much, man. And I think this is just straight up bullshit what they're doing to Damontae Kazee. The NFL is saying because he's a repeat offender, whatever the heck that means, that's the reason why that they're suspending him for the rest of the season. But, you know, there's been other people on Twitter and X going around here like Tom Brady saying it's not just Damontae Kazee's fault. Gardner Minshew shouldn't have put Michael Pittman Jr. in that position in the first place. And honestly, man, I just don't think there was any malicious, flagrant intent here by Damontae Kazee that warrants a season-ending injury without pay. All told here, Damontae's going to be missing out on over $250,000 because of these suspensions, and I think that's just straight up wrong. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. How do you feel about this suspension? Do you think the NFL was justified to suspend Damontae Kazee for the rest of this 2023 campaign? Type J if you think they're justified, or if you don't think they're justified, type N down there in the comment section. Guys, make sure you click that subscribe button because tomorrow we're going to be doing our official Week 16 preview here. Steelers versus Bengals. Going to let you guys know my keys to victory, season trends. Also got my official Week 16 score prediction, whether or not I think Mason Rudolph saves Christmas here in Steelers Nation. Spoiler alert, I think he might, folks. All right, that'll be it for today's show. Make sure you click that subscribe button. Really do appreciate all of your support. Until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.